Hey, special needs families. I think one of the biggest emotional struggles that we have is the feeling of rejection. I was thinking about this the other day as I was driving. Something had happened, and I just felt rejected once again. We feel rejected when our kids aren't invited to parties. We feel rejected when people who were once close to us go silent. They start distancing themselves from us because our children are just making them feel too uncomfortable. We feel rejected when there's not a place for our kids in our schools. We feel rejected when there's not a place for our kids in churches. It's just like this recurring emotion, and it cuts like a knife. And as I was driving and experiencing another moment of rejection, I felt the Lord remind me that Christ knew rejection like no one else. And experiencing rejection is what makes us the compassionate individuals that we are. You don't just get empathy out of nowhere. You have to go through these experiences to know what it feels like to be on the outside, so that you have a heart for those who are cast off to the side. But God reminded me that it's never for nothing. He always uses every pain to do something good in us. This morning I was reading in Genesis about the story of Jacob and Leah. So if you know the story, it's very little on the twisted side. There's a lot of Bible stories that just still make me scratch my head, and I don't think I'll understand until heaven. But Jacob married Leah and Rachel. Jacob loved Rachel, and Jacob hated Leah. And it wasn't even Leah's choice to marry Jacob. She was married off from an arranged marriage. So her whole life, she felt unloved. Yet God saw that, and God blessed her with children. He actually blessed her with more children than he blessed Rachel with. The study that I'm going through, it's the Bible recap with Tara-Leigh Cobble. She said, it seems that God has a special affinity for those that are typically overlooked. Jacob overlooked Leah, but God saw her and God blessed her even when Jacob cast her to the side. You saw this a few chapters back with Hagar, Sarah's maidservant, who bore one of Abraham's sons. Another very interesting situation. And it was not her choice. She was subject to that situation, and she bore a son, and yet she was cast off. And she ended up out in the middle of nowhere and thinking she was about to see her son die of starvation, feeling completely overlooked, I'm sure, by God, and rejected by the people that she thought might have cared for her. And then God came to her, and he rescued her and her son and said that he would give a special blessing to both of them and make Ishmael into also a great nation. So Hagar said, "You are the God who sees me." I change my bio a lot with my social media platforms. It's very hard to capture in just a small sentence what I'm trying to do on social media. But I had a moment of enlightenment the other day, and I felt like this really summed it up. Sharing my life so special needs families feel seen. I think we all want to feel seen. None of us want to feel overlooked. Everyone hates rejection. But I want to remind you today that God sees you. And there's a lot of things that are done unseen, behind closed doors in special needs family life. A lot of sacrifices that are made. In fact, we just got back from Austin advocating for direct care professionals. And I thought about them this morning as I was trying to articulate how I feel about them. I would say that these are some of the most unseen, underpaid, underappreciated people in our workforce. If you could peek behind the doors of a group home and see all that is done by a direct care professional, you would understand their worth and their value. And the same goes for you as a special needs family member. A lot of sacrifices are made that are unseen. And maybe you feel unseen. Maybe you feel like Hagar, who's just been dumped off in the middle of nowhere with no ally, no one who understands you, no one who even cares about what you're going through. I just want to remind you today, and this was something I was reminded of, is that God has a special place in his heart for you. And you are never, ever unseen by God. He has seen every sacrifice that you've made. He's seen all the messes that you have cleaned. He's seen every time that you've been literally slapped in the face or scratched, or moments of fear where you've had to go and find your loved one who's eloped again. God has seen all that when no one else has seen your sacrifice. And then on top of that, you feel rejected by people. You're not invited to parties. You're not included in the churches. You're not remembered whenever you're struggling. God remembers you, and not just remembers you and just thinks about you, but just like with Hagar and with Leah, he has, I truly believe, a special blessing and special favor that he wants to pour on you and your family and your child. I hope this encourages you today. It deeply encouraged me, and this is what God wants us to do for others. This is seeing and elevating and noticing people who are forgotten, people out in the margins. This embodies the heart of God. And so when we participate in advocacy, when we participate in serving the least of these, we are showcasing some of the greatest attributes of God. What a privilege. What a calling. What a blessing to get to do that. God bless you. Keep fighting your fight. Your rewards are great.